everybody heard, right, that the top security officials were having a conversation on Signal, and apparently the reporter at The Atlantic who reported that Trump called members of people who died in World War II in France, he called them suckers and losers. But this is the same guy who now suddenly says he was invited into a conversation on Signal, which was talking about the invasion of the Houthis.
Yeah.
So anyway,
and they accidentally put him in there. Do you know how easy it is to hack a phone today? Do you know how easy it is?
So let's just see how this all washed out. Watch, this was today-ish. It was in the last couple of days. Here's Jeff Goldberg from The Atlantic.
I want to start by getting your reaction to what we heard from Secretary Hegseth. They were saying that nobody was texting war plans. Given you were privy to this group chat, is that how you saw it?
No, that's a lie. He was texting war plans. He was texting attack plans. When targets were going to be targeted, how they were going to be targeted, who was at the targets, when the next sequence of attacks were happening. I didn't publish this, and I continue not to publish it because it felt like it was too confidential, too technical, and I worry, honestly, that sharing that kind of information in public could endanger American military personnel. But no, they were plans for the attack. They were texted before the attack.
And there were things texted that you viewed as so sensitive, you did not even publish them in your report today.
I made the decision that the technical aspects of this, including what kinds of weapons packages, the attack sequencing, and so on, that's not necessarily in the public interest. What's in the public interest is that they were running a war plan on a messaging app and didn't even know who was invited into the conversation. I mean, it's an obvious, ridiculous security breach. And, you know, he, if you notice, he didn't actually answer the question.
Hey, Karen showed me her tits and they were really nice, but I'm not going to show you. I mean, she's a whore and everything, but I'm not going to show you because I just have too much respect for her.
Yeah, very, very good. Good analogy. Good analogy. So, you know, this same guy, you know, the whole news media, as always, presumed that this guy was telling the truth and that everybody else was lying. And I mean, here we go in America. This
show
is
us. Somebody should, a judge should be like, show me what happened. Somebody should say, show me what happened. Oh, I can't. It's just too Yeah, right.
Well, here's the Senate hearing today. They immediately called a hearing on this, as they should. So watch.
I want to get a little more information about this. Director Gabbard, did you participate in the group chat with Secretary of Defense and other Trump senior officials discussing the Yemen war plans?
Senator, I don't want to get into the specifics.
Ma'am, were you on? You're not going to be willing to address. So you're not, are you denying? Matt, will you answer my question, ma'am? You were not TG on this group chat?
I'm not going to get into the specifics.
So you refuse to acknowledge whether you were on this group chat?
Senator, I'm not going to get into the specifics.
Why are you going to get into the specifics? Is it because it's all classified?
Because this is currently under review by the National Security Council.
Because it's all classified? If it's not classified, share the text now.
As the White House previously
stated, is it classified or non-classified information on this text?
I can confirm.
Director Radcliffe, were you on the group chat?
Senator, I was on a Signal messaging group.
So you were the John Ratcliffe on that chat?
I was.
Thank you.
Can I provide some context, Senator, to that?
Yes, but I've got a series of questions.
Well, but I think it's important because at the outset you made a couple of comments about Signal messaging using encrypted apps. So that we're clear, one of the first things that happened when I was confirmed as CIA director was Signal was loaded onto my computer at the CIA, as it is for most CIA officers. One of the things that I was briefed on very early, Senator, was by the CIA records management folks about the use of Signal as a permissible work use. It is. That is a practice that preceded the current administration to the Biden administration.
Director Ratcliffe, I've got a series of questions. If you're making the statement that Signal is a secure channel.
No, can I answer that? It is
I've got a series of
end-to-end encryption. So
It
to
is,
finish,
I understand
it is
encryption.
permissible to use to communicate and coordinate for work purposes, provided, Senator, that any decisions that are made are also recorded through formal channels.
Right.
So those were procedures that were implemented.
Dr. Ratcliffe.
My staff implemented those processes, followed those processes, complied with
So are
those
you saying
processes,
that
and finally, just please, so my communications, to be clear, in a Signal message group were entirely permissible and lawful and did not include classified information.
Well, we will make
clear.
that determination, because if it's not classified, share the text with the committee. You know, let me go on. Director Gabbard, you are the security executive and set access guidelines for classified information. Did you contact the defense secretary or others after this specific military planning was put out and say, hey, we should be doing this in a SCIF?
There was no classified material that was shared in that
So then
Signal
if there was no
chat.
classified material, share it with the committee. You can't have it both ways. These are important jobs. This is our national security. Bobbing and weaving and trying to, filibuster your answer. So please answer the question. If this was Director Gabbard, if this was a rank and file intelligence officer who did this kind of careless behavior, what would you do with them?
Senator, I'll reiterate that there was no classified material that was shared in that.
And if there's
Signal
no classified materials, share. And then if there's no classified materials, then you can't even answer the question whether you're on the chat. This is strangely familiar, and I think my colleagues will remember, when you couldn't answer the question, is Edward Snowden a traitor? Man, I have serious doubts about anyway. Director Gabbard, I'm going to give you this. Tweeted just 11 days ago, and I'm quoting you. Any unauthorized release of classified information is a violation of the law and will be treated as such. So if this information is classified, what are you going to do?
Senator, 2 points here. First of all, there's a difference between inadvertent release versus
Careless and sloppy.
malicious leaks of classified information. The second point is there was no classified information that was on
Then this
Signal
committee
group
should get
chat.
that information. Director
And the
Patel,
National Security
Director
Council
Patel,
is
my time's
reviewing
about out,
how
and I'm
this
going to use
occurred.
my 12 seconds that the chairman gave me. Director Patel, has the FBI launched any investigation of this?
Senator, I was just briefed about it late last night, this morning. I don't have an update.
I would like to get an answer by the end of the day.
And a glass of water.
Really? Well,
But you can't speak of any kind of issue. If it's being investigated, you're not allowed to talk about it. No matter what, you can't say a word. You are not allowed to say a word. Nothing.
they rushed to have this hearing, and they had to have the public first because the whole thing is a talking point. Let's talk about Afghanistan. Absolutely. This just gives them a reason to unite against Trump instead of being held accountable for their actions. Bullshit. Absolutely. This
The
is
last thing
just
they have nothing. And
No, but
even
the
if it was
thing-
classified, they're allowed to speak on it there.
I think I saw this and I'm going to find it and put it up. But it was a successful mission. It's been successful every single night. Every day we're having success against the Houthis, even though Biden didn't do anything about it.
And you asked about lessons. I think there's a lot of journalists in this city who have made big names for themselves, making up lies about this president, whether it's the Russia hoax or making up lies about Gold Star families. And this one in particular, I've never met, don't know, never communicated with. And we are looking into and reviewing how the heck he got into this room. But I'll tell you what, the world owes President Trump a favor. Under Biden, global shipping was shut down. Pinprick attacks, months between them, our destroyers being fired upon dozens of times. President Trump took decisive action with his national security team, took out the head missileer, knocked out missiles, knocked out headquarters, knocked out communication sites. And for once, as we hear, as you all hear from every one of our allies, thank God for American leadership again. Thank God for American strength. You're welcome. We had a national security team that was coordinating these efforts. As Director Radcliffe testified today, his first day on the job, he was introduced to this app on his government systems at the CIA and at the State Department and otherwise. So, look, this journalist, Mr. President, wants the world talking about more hoaxes and this kind of nonsense rather than the freedom that you're enabling. And a key part of our sovereignty is open sea lanes and knocking the crap out of terrorists, which is exactly what your team and Pete Hegseth, a good friend and fellow veteran, is leading the charge on, and it's an honor.
We had a very successful, we had a very successful evening, and we've had numerous successful evenings and days in that area. The Houthis are absolutely on the run. The worst of them has been killed. This should have been done a long time ago by Biden, but Biden was an incompetent president. He couldn't do anything. He didn't know where he was going. He had no clue. This guy had no clue. This should have been done a long time ago. As they shoot missiles at ships, randomly shoot missiles at ships, and they make their own missiles. You know, this is not an incompetent group of people. They make their own missiles. They get the missiles also from Iran. It's an offshoot of Iran, another offshoot. You have Hamas, you have Hezbollah, you have the Houthis, you got a lot of stuff going on with Iran. And we sent a letter to Iran. You're going to have to be speaking to us one way or the other pretty soon, because we can't let this happen.
Oh, I thought that was a great answer. Mike Walls, it turns out they're saying that he was the one who let Goldberg into the conversation. There's an investigation right now going on. Now, I got to say something. Do I think that it makes sense that you would use an app that somebody other than the government of the United States of America controls to have these conversations? The answer is no. And the president actually said at some point he wants everybody in a room together to have those high-level confidential conversations. But he understands that that's not the world we live in. But I think that it's crazy that we would use Signal for any kind of communication. Why, use beepers for God's sakes. Use something, well, maybe not beepers, but use anything else. Something that we control, that America controls, that the military controls. But having said all of that, this is nothing but grasping at straws. It's a way to say, hey, look over here. Don't pay attention to the fact that there are no migrants illegally crossing the border and that migrants are actually leaving America. Don't look at the fact that, oh yeah, the stock market took a plunge, but it's already back up. Don't take a look at that. The Department of Agriculture actually figured out how to help with the bird flu, and the price of eggs are now dropping. Don't take a look at the fact that Trump is bringing more and more business back to America. This is what they're grasping on, is that this guy supposedly was in on the Signal conversation. We're going to find out if it really happened or not. But we're also going to hear from mainstream media that, somehow or another, whatever the answer is, Trump is lying, because that's what they always say.